Why should the president approve a waiver for banks not to pay some tax? And this is the sector of the industry that makes so much profit on a yearly basis. So why are you preventing them? This is one of the industries where people are properly paid, and you are preventing them. So I also believe that the legislator can come in this area, that there is a need to stop this so-called waiver. What you need to do, collect the money and do the job. Don't allow the company to go and do the job. We should look for how to stop this idea of waiver. And when there's a waiver that shouldn't affect the third fund tax, it shouldn't affect the third fund tax, because it's not part of what they gave waiver for. The third fund tax should be 2% of your accessible profit. 3% of your profit. Whether you are going to do whatever is not an issue. Like the first ban, you declare 700, that it should be 2% of that amount. 3%. Sorry. It's 3% of that amount. Not say you have deducted 750. You have just bring it. We brought it to 220 billion. If we do that, those children who are dropping out of school, those parents, those who are committing suicide, and others, we eliminate. We will eliminate them. So I want to thank you for this. Please, we will want to be involved in this continuously, so that we see how we can correct this. And also, the so-called the FROS, I thought they would have been referred to. If we didn't invite them, they were insisted on coming. If you didn't invite them, they should have written to you to say, we want to come and be part of this. So we also had to watch the FROS to ensure that this tax is properly collected. Like I said, I'm making a general statement. Maybe when we call next and they now present the property, we'll look at them item by item. But I've looked at it. I won't use the word fraud for now until it is proven. But when you look at it, you know there are something wrongs in what you are seeing. Something is definitely wrong. And we must look at the bottom. And I want to plead that the committee will continue this way, so that the Nigerian children, the Nigerian poor, who still earn 30,000 a month, should be able to send their children to school. If that one can generate 2 trillion in a year, and it's possible if the tax is well collected, you don't need to, all the universities, polytechnic, we move perfectly. And that's what we wish. And I want to thank you for your job, and we'll be with you in this struggle. Thank you very much. This issue came up in 1992, when the union went on a struggle, and the president then, Babangida, said there is no fund to implement that agreement. It was that the origin of ETF then, Education Trust Fund, because they say, now challenge the union, can you let's look for how we can fund this. That was how it originated. But it took another strike after 6 years before it was implemented. In 2011, we also found out that it was reshaped to primary, secondary, and it was not making any impact. And we also have to struggle that it becomes just for the tertiary institutions. But what we have found out, and it's there, and thank God you invited us today, I want to commend you for that, is that the tax is not properly collected. So I don't want this one to be limited to the banks alone. It's general. It's a general thing, and we have to look for how to ensure that if it's well collected, this issue of struggle by the union, strikes to fund the system will disappear. It will just go. But especially the local companies, the big contractors, the big industries you have, they don't really pay the property.
Let me speak. Let me speak. Let me speak. What you have in terms of items that you have you've classified as taxable, we have some differences based on the provision of the exemption order that was issued by the president in 2011. And that's why I said some of these issues we may not be able to resolve at this sitting. It is good we have time, and I believe this does not just apply to First Bank, because it's an issue that applies to other banks as well. Our consultants have been interacting over time, and the issue of the exemptions that are provided for in the presidential order of 2011, which I have here, that exempt certain categories of incomes from tax. So basically, no, let me have the chairman. Let me have the. No, but it's good I have the attention of the chairman. She's the one that is interrogating me. Sorry. Sorry, So as I was saying, based on that presidential order issued in 2011, there are certain categories of income that are exempt from tax. Some of them include short-term federal investment income from short-term federal government instruments and securities such as treasury bills and promissory notes, bonds issued by federal, state, and local governments, and bond issued by corporate bodies, including supranationalities. The last item there is interest earned by holders of the bond and short-term securities listed in paragraph 1 to 3 above. So by the time, Madam Chair and members of the committee, by the time you take into consideration income earned from these instruments over the period of the audit of the committee, the difference between the submissions we have made and the submissions you have in your record will be identified and will be able to reconcile. Yeah, it will be zero. It will be zero. We are very sure. Let me add that First Bank as an institution, and that is why, despite the short notice of this invitation, we found it fit and very necessary to be here. We saw it yesterday, and I represent the bank MD. I'm also an executive director on the board of the bank. We find this invitation very important, and we felt we have to come and appear before the representatives of Nigerian people to explain this. Tax matters are so critical. We are a compliant institution. We are also very socially responsible, and we take these issues very, very seriously. So by the time you add up those exemptions from what we have, I'm sure we'll arrive at the same figure with the committee's consultants. Thank you very much.
Of the bank. Note 9, page 189 of that submission for 2011. For 2012, sorry, note 16, page 252, education tax as computed by your auditors, whom you have mentioned, Deloitte, in your financial statement. Excuse me, I didn't interject. Made a submission in the page 252, note 16, year 2012. As per your auditors and your financial statement, you have an education tax liability of 493 million naira. Your evidence of payment of tax to FIRS in the said 2012 was 191,736,865 naira, meaning that for 2020 financial year, you still have from your submission an outstanding of 301,263,135. We've not started adding back all the disallowables that were adduced to the exemption which you purportedly were issued for CIT. My question now is, how does your assessment by your own auditors differ from what you paid to FIRS? And this is as far back as 2012. It wasn't reflected, it wasn't carried over to the next financial year. And this is the same thing across board. What I have here is a general position where the financial statement which you sent, which is a public and published document, which we also found in your website, is showing that First Bank in 2012 paid an education tax liability of 493 million and other fractions, like I said. But in trying to ensure your compliance, rather than show us receipts of 493 million paid at that time, you are showing us a purported exemption for CIT. I'm wondering if you present different tax liabilities at different instances. Because from our position of law, calculation of tax, publishing of tax liabilities without payment is tax evasion and is criminal. And this is the same for all the other years. In 2014 and 2016 also, there was no computation. There was nothing rendered by your tax auditors. There was nothing paid. So for this one that he even captured, and for the other years, the same thing goes for 2013, 2015, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2024. And my understanding is that the financial statement is what you have printed and shared to the public, and it has made you to look good. But in the actual liability, credit and debit, in your books, this amount is reading debit. But it is not reflecting so in the portals and evidence of payment of FIRS. And now that we are seeking compliance checks, you now tell us that you did not pay this amount because you are relying on this exemption letter on CIT, on short-term bonds and all of that. So it's contradictory, conflicting, and I'm sure you know that bank directors are appointed by CBN and they are statutory officers. And you know the implication of all of this. And it's worrisome when financial institutions who declare huge financial earnings now begin to walk around the numbers to make casualties of the tertiary institution and students whom they are supposed to help. All we are asking is apply the law and don't brandish different statements at different occasions. I don't know if you want to. Clarity and emphasis. Committee is not even assessing. We are not carrying out assessments of the education tax, even though the Freedom of Information Act allows everybody, and relevant sections of FIRS Act allows individuals now to do self-assessment. But we have decided to limit the scope of this committee with what you have declared to us as your taxable income. And it is based on your submissions that we have drawn this, and we can give it to you. The Secretariat can avail you with these details before you go. So, Secretariat, kindly avail First Bank and other appearing entities.
Through a letter, it will be an attachment on the letter.
Okay, so committee would write to you officially and communicate this to you, which we have extrapolated from your submission with no additions.
Can I continue with my question?
You can continue.
Okay.
Finance Committee did allude to the fact that we employ respected consultants, not just on tax matters, but in also auditing our accounts. We hold ourselves to very high standards of conduct and responsibility. So, Madam. Yes, Madam. I'm speaking to the issue. So the point the issue I'm making is, just as like I alluded from the beginning, some of these issues we may not be able to comprehensively address them in this hearing. So, just like the honorable member moved and the motion seconded, the information required by the committee, we will avail them, and we also seek the kind indulgence of the committee to have our consultants and the consultants of the committee to sit down and reconcile some of these issues. This is our prayer. And it's also in line with the motion made by the chair of Finance Committee. Thank you very much for the chair.
At the same time, the company or the bank made a payment of 191,736 million to FIRS. Are they claiming that they have settled the liability of 2012 by making payment of 191, or there is still an outstanding liability which they are aware to be settled subsequently? That is one question. Secondly, if they agreed that there is an outstanding liability of 301,263 naira, they agreed that that is an outstanding, which the chairman has consistently been pointing out, that you have engaged somebody to serve you, he served you diligently, and arrive at this tax liability which you publish. At the same time you made this payment, you should by simple arithmetic calculate and arrive at outstanding of 301 million. Having arrived at that, now the committee is rejecting in court the so-called, by the presentation based on the presidential order, that 1,462,500,000 as tax exempt. The committee now disagree with that exempt, now is adding it back as a tax liability, thereby arriving at 1,763,000,000. Is that the position? Yes. So that is the clarification I want to have, that they should take home or back to the bank that the claim is eventually having rejected this exempt, and also the penalty served on failure to pay, which is counted on daily basis, sometimes on monthly basis. Now we are expecting payment of 2,203,000,000 in 2012. That is what I understood from the whole discussion, and which now the committee is presenting to the bank to go and clear this, if there is any clarification that needs to be done through the bank managers as well as the consultant, the tax consultant. Is that the position? That is my understanding. Okay.
From their for submission, they are not the maker. I'm coming to say they're not the author and maker of this document. It's on that basis for us to get to the root of this matter. It's on that basis that I came with a motion that I moved, which the committee agreed to, because the primary source of document is key. We want to have, because if an executive order was issued in which year? 2010, 2011, and then you have a presentation, you have a review, because what we are doing now is post-mortem. So the financial activities had been carried out in the past. So, and this order was given in 2011. And I don't want to take us into some legalities that are contestable, because I was having a chat with my colleague here, that the lifespan of a financial act is a year. The lifespan of a financial year, of a finance act, appropriation act, is a year. Now, you've told this committee that this, sir, with due respect, my colleagues, it's only in the UK that the Queen, now as we have King, commits no crime. Here, human beings, we can make mistakes, we can have errors. In Nigeria, we have seen a traditional ruler being sentenced to death for making rituals with a human being. So here, the point I'm making is this: we can have an executive order that can infringe on an act of the parliament. So we need to be guided by this provision. So, sir, my leader, to answer your question, that what we are saying here, that for now, we cannot conclude, like you are saying, until they furnish the tax computation,
Yes.
which under professional evidence, their tax consultant, Deloitte, computed, stamped and sealed and submitted to FIRS, which form the basis of whatever assessment that they have done. Even as a doctor, I want to submit that it may not be final because we want to have Deloitte seated here for cross-examination.
Honorable member.
Thank you.
I think we are
795123.
795.
123 and
123.
there's allowable expenses of 758842. 758842.
You said profit, excuse me, sir, is that profit before tax?
Yes. PBT.
Okay.
Yes. Of 758842. Yeah, add back, you should add back additional non-taxable income of let me see, non-taxable income stroke exempt items of 1.21582 trillion. 2 trillion. Trillion. And then we have a tax liability at 2% stroke 2.5 as applicable of 5491, 5,491. Yes, it's the exempt, yeah. Non-taxable stock exempt items. Yeah. You said? Well, they are what they are, they're exempt items. So ideally they should be exempt in computing the tax liability. Yes. This is the gross profit before tax. Yes. So what is your question? The 1.8 is not.
Madam Chairman, please, with due respect, please.
I think,
please, both executive and legislative man are very expensive.
yeah.
Sir, you know, we are guided by our rules of engagement. You see, it is settled in law that you cannot change the content of a written document by oral narration. I don't want us to engage in oral computation, oral narration. We speak to records. And ma'am, it's on that basis that I've made the application so that we don't waste our time. Madam Chairman, you might want to engage, I think at this stage, we should allow First Bank to come back here with their consultant and the copy of the tax computation, because the issues that the learned professor and my uncle, the issue they are talking about, they are being described in various semantics in accounting parlance. But it is when we have these records that we can see to them. We on this side will be able to see what you are talking about. Madam Chairman, it is my suggestion that we take other banks that are here. First Bank should go and get Deloitte to put all the books together. I also want to apply, my leader, that Federal Inland Revenue Service should be here. It's an affront for FIRS. We're having this kind of beautiful engagement. Sir, let me say this. When we invite government agencies, private sector, individuals here, we have a lot of takeaway. We have a lot of gains. We do not invite people here to harass or intimidate them. No, that's not our culture. That's not our culture. Nigeria belongs to all of us. From this engagement, it's either we see a law that has become obsolete, that is not working, and we see need to amend, repeal, and reenact. That is the gains of this engagement. And to the best of our ability, what this committee is trying to do is trying to support the government of President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, vis-a-vis ourselves, to get more money lawfully. If our money are with First Bank and they have not been paid, we lovely ask FRS, oh yeah, go. Go. So that we can finance our education sector. So that's my application that you probably, please take my application that FRS should be here going further. FRS should be, if they fail to appear, we know what to do. But they should appear in the next hearing. Thank you.
Okay. The committee would communicate to First Bank the date for the next hearing. And I want to also let the committee know, remind us that this committee is with a human face, fully armed with the dictates of law and parliamentary procedure. We have deployed procedural propriety and proprietiness in all our engagements. You can see that the first appearance you made here was in January. And that goes to say that we have allowed this to reasonably crystallize. And I want to put it to you that this committee and our technical team have been in touch with your consultants. And so let's not begin to say it's until when you come with consultants and your documents. My senior colleague, they have been doing that because what we do is to monitor compliance. And they've been regularizing, updating their receipts of payment. And they've been reconciling. And this is where we as a committee have arrived at with you. The bone of contention have always and mostly be that the banks seem to be relying on a purported exemption order which clearly mentioned companies' income tax exemption order of 2011. We have asked the banks to produce the education tax exemption order, and they have failed to present it. We have equally presented with them that you cannot liken one exemption to another because in law you don't summarily assume, because what is not mentioned is deemed excluded. Education tax was not mentioned in whatever you have shown. And that has been the reason for their back and forth, so that we don't keep wasting the time of Parliament, because you are also a very high-ranking parliamentarian. So based on that, I am reliably informed that there are other receipts of payments and other forms of computations that might have changed from the time of last monitoring, which we would allow by virtue of the motion you have moved to allow the technical team further cost reconciliation and see where changes have emerged. And this is to put it on record that this is not the final assessment, as work is still ongoing at the technical team. Is that carried? So the committee would communicate to your bank within 2 weeks on a date that will be clearly.
And the documents submitted, requested for submission from us, from our good selves. We have submitted those documents and computations have been made. However, the reconciliation exercise with your technical team was not done. We're still expecting to conclude on that. And also permit me to stand on the wisdom of Honorable Bode. I think the submissions you made are wise and fair. So that will truncate a lot of wastages of time for today. 2 things I will pray for. One, for the Honorable Committee to allow us to continue reconciliation with your technical team, and then adoption of what Honorable Bode put on the table. I think that will bring a very speedy closure to everything we are doing here. There is fairness and openness there. That's all we have to submit today. Thank you.
When you are here, they should be here so that we can also cross-examine them and ask them questions, right? And ma'am, like I also want to reiterate that FIRS, FRS must be here. They must be here. Because often than not, even when you do self-assessment, they come back to conduct audits, isn't it? Have they ever conducted an audit on your bank? Yes. Have you had cause to pay more in terms? No, I'm just asking. Have you, from experience, have you had cause to pay more than you initially assessed? Exactly. So there is merit in this hearing. There is merit in this engagement, that perhaps there may be more, or maybe you have also been over assessed. It goes either way. For you to know that we are very friendly here, that we are working in our common interest, so it's on that basis that my leader, that I further propose that they comply with our earlier order. Thank you. They should bring PwC here.
The report here adopted. So in line with other submissions by the other committee, by your colleagues.
Yes, ma'am.
And the request that you've made now.
Yes, ma'am.
The committee, is it our wish to also grant him the request?
Ask who is their tax consultant.
Oh, who is your tax consultant? The person who prepared the financial statement to the bank.
Padebo Consulting.
Padebo Consulting.
Yeah, but the bank main consultants are Pricewaterhouse, really. But for the tax consultants, we have Padebo.
No.
Yes, ma'am.
No. So, okay. I'm sure you understand what the committee has ruled on.
I've
that
highlighted.
We would write you a letter.
Okay, ma'am.
In 2 or 3 weeks, but before you cause appearance, you present your details of your tax
computations and are submitted to FRS and the receipts, evidence of payments
and evidence of payment.
Yes, well,
then you can equally go on with the technical committee to reconcile where you have produced evidence of payment.
Thank you.
So that before your next appearance, it will now be to speak to issues, because you will be submitting to us ahead of time what you will be speaking to.
Yes,
so we don't have a repeat of this session.
Thank you very much.
So you are okay. Before you leave, let's take a message from one of the appearing entities, ASUU.
Our invited guests, my name is Honorable Emeka Tinubu. Sir, I want to thank you so much for your submission. Just like the chairman of the committee said, this committee is going to do a forensic analysis of that waiver, because we notice that a lot of companies are hiding on that waiver. You understand? So it's not going to be a blanket waiver. So we'll do a forensic. This committee has the capability to do that. So we can assure you that we're going to do a forensic analysis of those waivers. Know those companies who are to benefit from that waiver and those who are hiding on that waiver, under that waiver. So I want to thank you, and please, next time we invite you, make sure you avail yourself so that to support this committee. Thank you very much.
Extended to Zenith Bank. And in fairness to Zenith Bank, they actually responded swiftly, nominating someone to stand in for the MD. Sadly and very unfortunate, I cannot find Zenith Bank here, nor any of their representatives. Chairman, this is an affront and an insult to this committee. We cannot sit down here. We're all busy Nigerians. If there is anything that is important to any Nigerian today, is the education of our children. So if you are invited to come in and discuss on how we can advance and develop education, I think it must be taken seriously by every Nigerian. So I want to move the motion that the MD of Zenith Bank, the tax consultants, FRS, in line with the motion that was moved early, appear before this House on the day that will be communicated, on 20th of next month, June 2024, I so move.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, respected colleagues. My name is Honorable Emeka Chinedu. To align with your motion, I just have a little amendment. The amendment should be that this committee should write to Zenith Bank a letter of displeasure. A letter of displeasure should be written to Zenith Bank. So I also hereby second your motion. That you ably move. I so second.
Moved. Seconded. Is it the wish of the committee that the motion as moved and seconded be implemented? Is it carried? So the MD of Zenith Bank be the tax consultant and FIRS is hereby invited to appear before the committee on the 12th of June 2024 or any other date as may be communicated. 20th of June 2024 or any other date that may be communicated to them by this committee. For making time to join this routine quarterly education tax monitoring exercise of the House Committee on TED Fund and other services. I want to extend our appreciation to the leader of the House, the Speaker, House of Representatives, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, for thinking through this innovation as to shore up the finances, block leakages, and expose corruption where necessary, enforce compliance of the education tax. Oftentimes, it's been stated that the problem we have as a nation is not just plethora of laws, but the implementation and enforcement of the provisions of those acts. And this is one of those exercises we have commenced to strengthen the provisions of the Education TED Fund Act and to ensure that the education tax so collected are also put to judicious use. I commend you for attending, and I noticed that we have a member who has not introduced himself. He came in and sat patiently. Please permit me to